single day. I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am Ginger Wolf, and this is Stripped Finance. I am a future entertainer and stripper, not a financial consultant. So any and all information received from this channel is meant only for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes. So please, if you have any questions or concerns, take it up with your financial consultant. Now with that out of the way, let's enjoy today's video. Bye!
Hello everyone, welcome back to Stripped Finance. Today we are going to be covering stagflation, which is not the same as inflation, but we'll get back to that a little bit later on. So we're doing another Investopedia article, because like I've said in several videos before, I just like their setup. It's pretty informative and it's easy to follow. Not to mention, all you have to do is go to Investopedia and look up whatever topic I'm looking on, and you can read it word for word. So today we are doing a article on stagflation. It is by the Investopedia team, reviewed by Eric Estevez, and fact-checked by Jared Ecker. So let's get started. First things first, what is stagflation? Stagflation is an economy cycle characterized by slow growth and high unemployment rate, accompanied by inflation. Economic policymakers find this combination particularly difficult to handle, as attempting to correct one of the factors can exacerbate another. Once thought by economists to be impossible, stagflation has occurred repeatedly in the developed world since 1970s oil crisis. In mid-2022, many were saying that the United States had not entered a period of stagflation, but might soon experience one, at least for a short period of time. In June of 2022, Forbes magazine argued that a period of stagflation was likely because economic policymakers would tackle unemployment first, leaving inflation to be dealt with later. So the key takeaways are very simple. Stagflation is the simultaneous appearance in an economy of slow growth, high unemployment, and rising prices. Once thought by economists to be impossible, stagflation has occurred repeatedly in the developed world since the 1970s, and policy solutions for slow growth tend to worsen inflation and vice versa. That makes stagflation hard to fight. So, understanding stagflation. The term stagflation was first used by British politician Ian MacLeod in a speech before the House of Commons in 1965. A time of economic stress in the United Kingdom. He called the combined effects of inflation and stagnation a stagflation situation, which is really fun to say, by the way. Try and say that 5 times fast. The term was revived in the United States during the 1970s oil crisis, which caused a recession that included 5 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Inflation doubled in 1973 and hit double digits in 1974. Unemployment reached 9% by May of 1975. The effects of stagflation were illustrated by means of a misery index. This index, a simple sum of inflation rate and the unemployment rate, tracked the real-world effects of stagflation on the nation's people. The history of stagflation. Stagflation was once believed to be impossible. The economic theories that dominated academic and policy circles for much of the 20th century ruled it out of their model. In particular, the economic theory of Phillips' curve, which developed in the context of Keynesian, I think that's what it is, Keynesian economics, portrayed macroeconomic policy as a trade-off between unemployment and inflation. As a result of the Great Depression and the ascendance of Keynesian economics, economists became preoccupied with the dangers of deflation and argued that most policies designed to lower inflation tend to increase unemployment, while policies designed to lower unemployment raise inflation. The advent of stagflation across the developed world later in the 20th century showed that this was not the case. Stagflation is a great example of how real-world experience can run roughshod over widely accepted economic theories and policy prescriptions. Since that time, inflation has proved to be persistent even during periods of slow or negative economic growth. In the past 50 years, every declared recession in the U.S. has seen a continuous year-over-year rise in consumer price levels. The sole partial exception to this is the lowest point of the 2008 financial crisis, and even then the price decline was confined to energy and transportation prices, while overall consumer prices, other than the energy, continued to rise. What causes stagflation? Before we get into this, today's strip club, right? It's going to be Little Darlings. Meow. Little Darlings of Las Vegas. It's pretty cool. Ever since I started mentioning it, they send me little things now. So, I don't smoke anymore. I gave it up. But you can never have too many like little odds and ends. Because I like shiny things and I collect weird baubles. So, yay. Anywho, it's a really nice club, and if you haven't been, you really should. There was one time I went there and I saw a girl in a Stitch costume. It was pretty awesome. So, back to the video. What causes stagflation? There is no real consensus among economists about the causes of stagflation. They have put forth several arguments to explain how it occurs, even though it was once considered impossible. Some blame the oil price. One theory states that stagflation is caused when a sudden increase in the cost of oil reduces an economy's productive capacity. The oil crisis of the 1970s is a prime example. In October 1973, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, issued an embargo against Western countries. This caused the global price of oil to rise dramatically, therefore increasing the cost of goods and contributing to a rise in unemployment. Because transportation costs rose, producing products and getting them to shelves became more expensive, and prices rose even as people were laid off from their jobs. Critics of this theory point out that the sudden oil price shocks like those of the 1970s did not occur in connection with any of the simultaneous periods of inflation and recession that have occurred since the embargo. Some blame poor economic policies. Another theory is that the confluence of stagnation and inflation is the result of poorly made economic policy. Harsh regulations of markets, goods, and labor in otherwise inflationary environments are cited as the possible cause of stagflation. Some point to the former President Richard Nixon's policies, which may have led to the recession of the 1970s. A possible precursor to other periods of stagflation, Nixon put tariffs on imports and froze wages and prices for 90 days in an attempt to prevent prices from rising. Once the controls were relaxed, the rapid acceleration of prices led to economic chaos. While appealing, this is an ad hoc, is what it says, explanation of stagflation in the 1970s, which does not explain later periods that showed a simultaneous rise in prices and unemployment. Some blame the loss of the gold standard. Other theories point to monetary factors that may also play a role in stagflation. Nixon removed the last indirect vestiges of the gold standard, bringing down the Bretton Woods system that had controlled currency exchange rates. This decision removed commodity backing for the currency and put the US dollar and most other world currencies on a flat basis, ending most practical constraints on monetary expansion and currency devaluation. Stagflation versus inflation. Whatever the explanation, we have seen inflation persist during periods of economic stagnation since the 1970s. Even before the 1970s, some economists criticized the notion of a stable relationship between inflation and unemployment. They argued that consumers and producers adjust their economic behavior to rising price levels, either in reaction to or in expectation of monetary policy changes. As a result, prices rise in response to expansionary monetary policies without any corresponding decrease in unemployment, while unemployment rates rise or fall based on real economic shocks to the economy. This implies that attempts to stimulate the economy during recessions could simply inflate prices without promoting real economic growth. Urbanist and author Jane Jacobs saw the disagreements between economists on the causes of stagflation in the 1970s as a misplacement of scholarly focus on the nation rather than the city as the primary economic engine. She believed that to avoid the phenomena of stagflation, a country needed to provide an incentive to develop import replacing cities. That is, cities that balance import with production. This idea, essentially, the diversification of economies of cities, was critiqued for its lack of scholarship by some but held weight with others. And this has been a pretty long one, guys, so that's going to be it for today. Thanks for listening. Bye!
Hi guys, so it's Ginger Wolf. I'm out here hunting you new content. So don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!